What is up, everybody? Calling all angels, and it is time to go over the weekend matchups for this week's NWSL. You may notice the screen's not focused on that for a moment, though, and there is a good reason for that. The Women's Africa Cup of Nations, it is now, or say African Football Cup of Nations, WAFCON, is into its knockout stages, so I want to just take a look at what has been going on there. The reason this matters is WAFCON is doubling as the Women's World Cup qualifier. So, as you can read from here, this is a 32-team Women's World Cup, the last one before they also expand to the 48 format. Whether you find 48 positive or negative, I'll leave to you. But, in terms of this go-around, CAF is going to receive 4 direct qualifiers, meaning the 4 quarterfinal winners are all automatically going to enter the Women's World Cup. The 4 teams that lose will be sent into the Interconfederation playoffs, or rather, 2 of them will. The matchups will go accordingly. So, if you take a look here, Morocco playing South Africa. These are actually 2 teams that have no NWSL teams in them at all, so no players coming in whatsoever. There was a car blaring past just now. Jerk. Anyway, winner to the World Cup, loser to the Interconfederation qualifier. Cameroon and Nigeria. There are some, I believe, in Nigeria's grouping, so we do have, I believe there was actually a lot of Washington Spirit spread out across. I know I saw some in Nigeria, one in Ivory Coast, 1 or 2 in Algeria, and I want to say I think there was NWSL players at Malawi. I don't think there was any in Ghana, but yeah, interesting setup there in terms of just how much NWSL influence is in this. But Cameroon versus Nigeria also happening here. That's going to be the 4th and final quarter. So basically the winner of those 2 matchups, Morocco, South Africa, Cameroon, Nigeria, will play in the semifinals of the African Cup of Nations. The losers will match each other, and that matchup will decide which nation competes in the Interconfederation playoffs. On the lower end of the bracket, today Ivory Coast matches Algeria, and then tomorrow Malawi will play Ghana. So, very, very interesting setup there. Very fascinating possible results that we could be looking at as we go forward. Definitely something to pay attention to. As you can see, because the teams who have advanced have to play, like, everyone is basically mandated an additional game after they lose. That means that everyone still has to be present for the Interconfederational playoffs, which happen after the semifinals on the 13th of August. So, that would mean the 9th be Sunday, 10 is Monday, 11, 12, 13. So that means on Thursday, the losers of these games will match up and have their Interconfederation playoff. This is important because realistically that means any players who have been over at WAFCON are likely also going to be out next week as well. Because you figure they're going to have to fly halfway around the world starting on Friday. Even if you spend that entire day just getting over the jet lag, most teams are matching up Saturday or Sunday. That's not a lot of time, and you're also just coming off of a very important qualifier on Thursday. I would assume, unless you're dealing with a player who is 100% necessary to your strategy, you might rotate them in as a very late game substitution, but they're not going to be ready for like a full reintroduction into the matches, I think, until the week after. So very important to bring up as we go forward here that basically if you have any players you've been waiting for WAFCON, you're probably, not only are they not here this week because they're in the middle of the quarterfinals, there's still another week before you're going to be seeing them. I would expect the matchups starting along the week of the 23rd will be when we start seeing the WAFCON players back. Anyway, with that stated, let's look at... Oh, by the way, I should actually make picks before I do this. Morocco has played outside their minds here and have really been determined to get their way into this. So I'm going to give it to Morocco here. I think they're going to win. I don't think they are actually the best team in CAF, and they will not actually carry the cup. But I think they've got enough firepower to slip by South Africa and find their way into the Women's World Cup next year. Cameroon, Nigeria, a few historical powers in here. Nigeria's got a lot of NWSL talent. I think that's going to carry them here. I'm going to give Nigeria the nod to qualify. Ivory Coast, Algeria. I'm going to go Ivory Coast. Just been fairly impressed with how their sanctioning, national sanctioning body has been handling their World Cup teams. Ivory Coast looked pretty solid on the men's side. From what I can tell, just based on the roster and who they've pulled, they seem to be doing pretty well for themselves on the women's side as well. So I'm going to give Ivory Coast the other game that's happening today. And then between Malawi and Ghana, I admittedly don't know too much on Ghana specifically. I do know that they generally have some pretty solid talent. That said, I have known entities from the NWSL in the matchup there, so I am going to lean Malawi, but that could be just very misinformed opinion, so please take that one with a heavy grain of salt. Actually, take this whole thing with a heavy grain of salt. In terms of the Interconfederation playoffs, once they're set, I would give Cameroon the nod over South Africa, and I would say Algeria over Ghana. But again, I don't have like the full breadth of knowledge on this. It'll be interesting just to follow. I'm more just fascinated by who all is going to come through from all this. Same thing going like when I look at some of the other confeds, like once you get down to those teams that are right on the edge in AFC, like I know Japan, South Korea, Australia, and North Korea are usually going to be solid entries. And then it's really a question of who's going to show up. And then also, I forgot, China also included. But there's a sixth spot they receive. So whoever gets it, there's always some difficulty in figuring out how that's going to go. So I'm curious how who fills in that last spot for AFC. CONMEBOL, outside of the main powers there, like Brazil and Colombia, it's kind of anyone's up for grabs most year. So that makes it interesting. UEFA's got a pretty firm handle on their hierarchy already. Seems like most of the nations who are going to be solid have now found themselves committed in women's football. And same thing, CONCACAF, it's at this point, USA, Canada, and Mexico are pretty much locked in. They're like, I would pencil them in most World Cups right now, the way CONCACAF is setting up. And the fourth matchup really could be anyone right now. It's I believe this year it's Jamaica versus Costa Rica. I would lean Jamaica since they've looked a little better recently, but that'll be coming up in the next couple months, so I'm sure I will go into a full preview of it later. All right, so this whole thing basically just ended up being a extremely long WAFCON thing. So I'm going to do this separate, actually. I'm going to post this one as a separate video, and then the actual preview will come up after. So enjoy that. Apologies.